Welcome back to the Puddin' Creek Rod Shop. Boy, have we got a good show for you today. We're going to do something a little different today. Instead of telling you about the cars we're working on or the cars we've bought, we're going to tell you about all the honey holes we found and the old cars and parts that we couldn't buy, the ones that got away.
Well, you got him coming now. Come on with you. I ain't got nothing. He's just dragging us, stripping us.
I was researching the history of the Asheville Custom when I met an older gentleman over in North Carolina that had some information for me. He invited me over to his house, and man alive, what a honey hole. He opened the doors to his lawnmower shed, and this Model T was sitting inside. And it even had the North Carolina inspection sticker from, get this, 1948. Then we walked down toward his barn, and I see this old Ford truck peeking out from under a shed. Now, this old truck was cool, but one of the coolest barn finds I've ever seen was sitting inside the barn. Now, when I saw this beauty, I just wanted to hook a chain to it and drag it out and start cleaning it up immediately. This truck was just too cool. I tried to buy it from him. He said, no way, this one would never be for sale because this was his daily driver. He drove this truck to work every day back in the 60s. Then he said to me, if you like old trucks, let's step back into the woods behind the barn here. Behind the barn was an old truck graveyard. There was old trucks that trees had fell over on. There was old trucks behind trees. There was old trucks buried in the weeds. And along with the old trucks, he had a pretty good collection of 1950s Fords going. Then he said, if you like this old junk out in the woods, wait till you see what I've got in my basement. Well, he wasn't kidding. The basement had old Ford cars, old Ford flatheads, and old Ford parts stacked up to the ceiling. This old 60s hot rod right here was by far the coolest car in the basement. Check out that rolling pleat and check out the Honest Charlie's window decal. And so I asked him, are you working on any of these cars? Are you building any of them? Or what are you doing with all these parts you've collected?
A hoarder of old Ford parts.
Well, he was a super nice guy, and I really enjoyed getting to see his collection. I asked him if anything was for sale. He said, nothing's for sale. He said, just watch for my estate auction when I die. He said, my goal is to have the best estate auction in Asheville.
Just jump in where you can and hang on.
Now, a side note to this story, the night I got home from looking at this guy's collection, I posted this picture I'd taken of the old truck with the tree on the hood on Instagram. A guy on Instagram saw it in another state, messaged me, and said that was the coolest picture he'd ever seen. Could he get my permission to take my picture and make a print for his man cave? A few weeks later, he sent me this. I guess he really did love that picture. All right, let's talk about one that got away. A good friend of mine had this beautiful 50 Merc that he'd owned for decades. He'd babied it. He took amazing care of it. It had a 302 in it. It drove so good that he'd take it from Tennessee all the way down to the Rod Run in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina every year. I mean, this was a cream puff. He'd got to a point in his life where he needed to downsize. He needed to sell a few cars. And he offered to sell me this beautiful 50 Merc for $35,000. Now, I don't know about you guys, but a $1,500 car purchase, I'll jump on that in a heartbeat. But a $35,000 car purchase, old Puddin' Creek has to sleep on that a night or two. If we spend $35,000 on a Mercury, then the little woman may not be able to afford flour for the biscuits. We may have to cut back to eating light bread with our gravy instead of biscuits and gravy. So I ciphered on it for a couple of days, and then a couple of days turned into a week. After a week, I got back with my friend and told him I was really considering buying his Merc, and he said, you're too late. A fella from Wisconsin bought the Merc. He's already been here, loaded it up, and it's gone. Well, somebody told me a long time ago, if you snooze, you lose, so I guess this one's on me. Well, the next car that got away from me is this little Saxon Roadster. Now, this thing was just as cool as it could be. It would have made a killer little hot rod. And when you see what it's sold for, you guys are going to say, Puddin' Creek, was this your first auction? Well, it wasn't my first auction, but I bid like it was, so I didn't get the little Saxon.
Here we go. The Paxton is very, very rare. I looked it up and they made about 3,000 of them from the best we can tell. It'd be a little, how much? You got two engines there, a radiator. Do they fit? It says Paxton, so they work. Have no idea. You guys know what you're buying. Saxon, excuse me. Hey, Saxon, Sexton, who cares? Here we go. You're buying this. Did the hood fit on it? Have no idea. And we got some radiators we'll be selling towards the end of the sale. You might want to keep that in mind. If you bought one of these and you think the radiator's down there, we're good to go. 3,000, and 3,000, and 3,000, and maybe get 2,000, and maybe get 2,000, and maybe get 2,000, maybe get 2,000, $1,000, let's roll. $1,000, maybe get 1,000, maybe get 1,000, maybe get 1,000, maybe get 1,000, $1,000, maybe get 1,000, maybe get 1,000, $1,000. That radiator's probably worth 200 or 300, 500. 500, yeah. 500, 7.5, 500, 7.5, 7.5, 7.5, 7.5, 7.5, 7.5, 7.5, 7.5, 7.5, 7.5, I got 7.5 right here. I got 7.5 right here. 800. No, he's 7.5, Arnie. He's 7.5. 800. 8.5. 8.5. 8.5. 900. $1,000. $1,000. $1,000. $1,000. Better get 1,000, Ernie. You're out. Better get $1,000. $1,000. $1,000. 1,100. 1,200. 1,200. 12. Better get 12. 12. 12. 12. 1,200. Better get 1,200. Better get 1,200. 1,200. Better get 1,200. Better get 1,200. 1,200. 1,200. 1,300. 13. 13. 14. 1,400. Better get 14. 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 14, get 14, 14, not over 14, get 14, get 14, 14, 14, 14, sold 13 on the ground here.
Now, at the very same auction was another car I should have bought. This 1936 Ford convertible sedan. Now, this is not the Asheville Custom. This is a car just like the Asheville Custom, but without a trunk. This car had not been customized at all. It still had the folding convertible top. It did have some accessory bumper guards and spotlights, but basically it was an all-stock car with original black paint from Henry Ford. This car would have made an amazing custom, just like the Asheville Custom, but this car was really too original and too nice to cut up into a custom. This car just needed to be fixed back as a Survivor or fully restored. At this auction, they were stacking them deep and selling them cheap.
500 of these. First height, no trunk, and the other one, the second height of the year is with a trunk. There's two here. One with trunk, one without. Made 6,500 in 1936. So how many's left? You know?
Yep, not many. How much on it? How much on it? We got, stuff that you can't find around still on the card. How much? How much on it? 2,000, 2,000, 2,000,
4,200, Bill.
How much?
4,200.
42 and a half, 45, 45, 45, 42 and a half, 45, 45, 45, 45, 45, 45, 42 and a half, 45, 42 and a half, 45, 42 and a half, 45. We all done, 45, 45, 42 and a half.
4,200.
4,200.
Yeah, you got it, John. What number?
Well, I was standing around with my hands in my pockets instead of my hand in the air bidding, so I missed out on that one. Check out the cool accessory radio under the dash. What year do you think that got installed? We needed a firewall for a 34 Ford project we were working on, and I got a lead on a nice one over in North Carolina. So the little woman and I, we load up and head toward the mountains of North Carolina. We get to the guy's place and start walking up the crooked little path to his shop, and this is the first thing we encounter. Now, I just came to buy a firewall. I really wasn't expecting this at all. On both sides of this crooked little path are just crazy barn finds, you would call them, if you were in a barn, but they're just sitting everywhere in the weeds. I see motorcycle stuff. I see Model A Ford stuff. I see 32 stuff. I see flathead motors. I mean, this is pretty wild. Judging by his collection, I can see this guy has an affinity for roadsters and also for pickup trucks. Now, as you can see in these photos, it was drizzle and rain when we got to this guy's shop. And as we walked up this crooked little path and got close to his shop, it just started pouring down rain. Well, we get inside his shop. I pay the guy for the firewall. Super friendly guy. The rain's starting to slack off now, and I asked him, before we leave, would it be all right if we wander around your property and take pictures of all your collection? Not only would it be all right, he said, it sounds like fun. I'll wander around with you. So here we are, me, the little woman, the seller, just wandering around this amusement park of rusty gold. Now you're sitting at home in your warm, dry living room, and you're probably thinking, I wonder what old Puddin' Creek bought. I wonder if he got one of those 32 grill shells. I wonder if he bought one of those roadsters. I wonder if one of those pickup cabs are coming back home to Puddin' Creek Rod Shop. Well, as the three of us wandered around in a drizzling rain, I asked about a lot of different items, especially those roadsters. How much would you take for that roadster? How about that 32 grill shell? What price do you have in mind on that? Well, I never could really get any prices out of the seller. I don't think he really wanted to part with any of this. As a matter of fact, as we were buying the firewall, I don't think he was over anxious to get rid of it. The last car we come up on is this old shoebox Ford. I mentioned to the seller, wow, that almost looks like school bus yellow. He said, funny you should mention that. The guy I bought this car from worked at the local school bus maintenance department. The next one that got away was this beautiful old Impala. We had went to this estate auction to try to buy this Impala at a bargain. It had been built by an auto mechanics instructor at the local technical college, and it was a cream puff.
Yeah. 40, now 41, 42,
Yes!
43, now 44,
Yes!
45,
Yes!
45 back, 46,
Yep!
47,
Yep!
48,
Yep!
look at the 48,
Yep!
49, 49,
Yep!
now 50, 50,000, 50,000, what time we look at the 50?
Come on, Mr. Big Bucks. Come on, we're here. Get that wallet out here.
50.
He's in.
Hey, man, where he's in?
He's in. Oh, he's in? He's in right there.
I got her $49,000.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
What's the buyer's price?
Done. Sold!
It's sold. What number?
Thank you, sir. What's your number, sir? Thank
The next car I'm going to show you that we did not buy was at the Turkey Run in Daytona. We saw this car in 2023. I'm walking the aisles of the swap meet and bam, I come up on this thing. What I thought was an old custom from the 1940s. After talking to the seller, we find out this old custom is not old at all. It's a modern build done by a friend of his who was a cabinet maker. Now, as I'm checking out this car, I'm thinking this really reminds me of the Harry Westergaard style cars of the 1940s. After talking to the seller some more, I find out that his friend actually built this car after seeing a Robert Williams illustration. Robert Williams drew the illustration based on the Harry Westergaard style of customs. Now, I saw this car at the Turkey Run swap meet on a Thursday, and the seller had it priced for $53,500. So I just couldn't get enough of this car, and Friday I walked back over to check it out again, and the seller had raised the price to $57,500. Now, usually at a swap meet, if a car doesn't sell, the price gets marked down. I've never heard of the price going up after not selling. Well, there are some honey holes and old car deals that I missed out on. I bet you've got one too. If there's a car deal you passed up and for years have regretted it, tell us what it is in the comments. Well, that's our show for this week. We sure appreciate you guys watching the Puddin' Creek Rod Shop YouTube channel. Be sure and hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss out on whatever craziness is coming up next.